I can see the camera.
Hi, I'm Luke Sherveld. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Gaffer. Here we are, a bunch of folks that were willing to come at short notice. We're at Stoodly Doodly. Oh. It's a stage in South San Francisco, and it's being managed at the moment by Little Giant. So we're thankful to them for allowing us to be here. And we're also very thankful to Nanlux for providing this 5,000 watt bicolor unit, and we're going to compare it with a number of other units. Their own unit, the 2400B, and then also two HMIs, an M40 and an M90. So that's what we're up to today. At the end, maybe we'll put it on a putt just to make sure it runs that way as well. And yeah, it's a first look. We threw our light up, we compared it to its sibling, and it's not quite double the output.
Right. It's like 60.
Was it 66?
2/3 of the 5K.
2/3 of the 5K. Yeah. Right. So you almost get another stop.
Almost.
With the 5K.
You get like 3/4 of a stop.
Yeah. Same jump from the 1200 to the 24. Same deal we observed on that other Meet the Gaffer episode. They're not proportional to the rated wattage.
But when you compare it to 4K versus 9K, it's more than 4K, less than a 9K, but you have trouble with a 6K globe in an M90 on a putt, whereas you won't have a problem with the 5K that has probably about the same as what a 6K globe would be.
So I'm basically saying this is probably the most light you could get out of a fixture on a 6,500 watt generator.
Yep.
Reliably.
And if you have a 7K, so much the better.
Yeah.
And
a little headroom for other stuff.
And then just color-wise, we didn't go into that too deeply, but seems pretty within reason as far as 3200 and 5600.
Yeah, and let's not forget the fact that HMI bulbs were always all over the map. And in fact, the 9K bulb was fairly blue.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this you can dial in.
Yeah, and if it's only 200 degrees off, that I most of the time wouldn't even bother trying to adjust, you know.
200 Kelvin, yeah, whatever, yeah. Given that, now you have a heavier light because you have the power box and control everything in the head. So then you have to go to a beefier stand. So there's that.
Right. I don't think you couldn't put it, I don't think there's a smaller stand you could put it on because
Crankovator.
A crankovator, yeah, sure.
A regular crank. Not the mini crank.
Lighter by a whole lot.
Yeah.
No.
Even worse finger pincher than this thing.
So you basically are into a Roadrunner or similar.
And you really should have a BOA too if you're going to go low.
Yeah. Totally.
If you're going to hit into reflectors or something.
Right. Or, I mean, you could
go
obviously
to
put
a
on
junior stand at that point, right?
If
you're
it's
not
staying
going up.
Yeah, or a runway base.
If you're not going to stem up.
Yeah.
You kind of have to treat it like an M90 from the workflow stand.
Yeah. You definitely need two people to put it up. But with two people, it didn't seem like that big of a deal.
Right.
Depending on who your two people are.
I get the argument when they decided to put the power supply in it because, you know, even if it was 20 pounds lighter and has separate ballast, you'd still need two people to put it on a stand.
Yep.
So now one less cable is nice.
Just power cable, yeah.
Straight to a 60 amp.
Yeah.
In our case, I guess you could put a 100 amp.
Owner op versus rental house. Go.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm speaking as a, owner of a 2400. Sort of the biggest light you want to be regularly fooling around with inside for an interior. It wouldn't occur to me to use this for too many interiors.
Yeah.
And so this is a good bounce light for that. Trying to be a compact bounce source on an interior.
2400.
2400. I think this light to me is almost like it's outside the building, or it's literally an exterior shoot, or you just need a frickin' lot of foot candles. It does go flicker free for high speed, which I don't think That one does that I know of.
And one thing we
So,
didn't play with too much is on the actual controller at this point, if you're down below what, 10%, you can go, it can go really smooth dimming, whereas on blackout, it popped off. So, but we don't have the profiles yet in blackout.
Right.
So there's some things that still need to come out.
And I don't know, also don't know an instance where I would be doing a manual fade out or fade dim up on the controller.
Right.
So it's almost not useful from the smoothness standpoint.
Totally. You want it on your controller.
Yeah. You're not
Yeah.
just stand there and not, plus it's not very
No.
consistent for getting that anyways. So
Right.
it's less smoothness and more increments, right? If you want, 2.5% versus 3%,
Yep.
then ultimately I'd say you probably got the wrong light.
Right.
But if you're down that low,
For sure. For sure.
I
Yeah.
do love the fact that they come with remote options.
That you have
Any
a
number of manufacturers don't have a remote corded control box that if it's on a high stand or it's in some inconvenient space, so you can at least run 15 feet of cable out and have some control over it. Or for an exterior daytime, what I'm actually doing tomorrow with this light, I'm not going to use blackout. I'm
Right.
just going to use the single controller on it. So convenient. I love that about Nanlux.
it does kind of make up for because we were talking before too about like most of the aperture lights have a separate power supply that also is the control box. So you can put that low, run a head feeder up to the light, and so even if your light's way up high, you can get to all the controls. This kind of solves that problem if you have that problem with Nanlux, where you can have the controls low.
And even if you didn't have enough controllers for all your lights, you could have your cables and then just click in if you had to.
Right.
But
this one comes with it.
Comes with it.
So
So
that's
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it
yeah.
does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it comes with the 45 degree. And then as far as we know right now, the reflectors you get are the same as you get with the 2400 because.
This early production version actually says 2400 on the reflector.
Right, right. So, but that's actually kind of nice that you have them interchangeable at the moment. So we'll have to see about that. And then the Fresnel, that's coming.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I first saw the box, the delivery box on wheels, I instantly didn't like it. But then Shane packed the light to come here and put the stand on the box, and it was like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm rethinking the box design. Maybe that's okay.
What I like about the box is it's skinny enough because for my little aisle, that'd be a thing I'd be thinking about. So that's sort of the owner-op consideration. You don't have a bigger truck usually. Yeah.
And I think from the rental house standpoint, it is nice because, with all the other, pretty much every other LED fixture and even HMIs, you had to make sure that you had a ballast and with HMIs, 2 head feeders, but with LED stuff, a head feeder and the light head itself and the reflectors. There's a lot of pieces to forget.
Yeah.
And so if you're rental house, and especially if, you have just a shop person trying to load all the pieces to this light up, if you get the light, well, in this case, if you get the case and the light and the feeders there, then you're good to go. Or like even when we were building the 2400, I think the 2400 head feeder was with your 1200.
Yep.
Your 1200 feeder was with this.
Yeah,
in the
because it's
case for
close
this
enough.
light.
Yeah.
It's it's a little bit of a fail safe.
Just have power.
If you're I guess that applies to owner ops too, because we can forget things too.
Right. And then if you're going to rent it, you have to make sure which cap they've got on the end. I mean, if it's going to be a 60 paddle or if it's going to be a 100 amp 220.
I don't really see a reason. Well, up here in the Bay Area with M40s, we've been running them with 60 amp Bates paddles because then we have 100 amp 220 to 60 amp to get it down to that. Whereas if you had a 100 amp paddle that was 220, that would work, but then you'd have to have 2 separate whole cables to go 110 versus 220.
Yeah.
So I think the 60 amp makes sense. It's honestly technically it's overkill for what the light needs to draw, right?
Right.
But there's nothing really in between an Edison and a 60 amp.
Do you see working with this 110?
I mean, if you were on a stage, I guess you could, but I think that's the only situation, because if you're running it on a generator, or at the like a 50 amp genny, then you're going to want to
You have to.
use both legs.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the choice on a big set if you're trying to balance,
Yeah.
getting things closer to a balance. It's good to have it as an option, basically.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Hey, thanks. That was our first look. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Hey, can we play with the way this clicks in? Like, isn't there like a lock?
So I think that's unlock, and then that's that.
So what? You click it in, and then
You have to line
So,
up the
This pulls
the
out.
info.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there, turn, click, and then this is the full safety lock right there.
so it has the click like a Bowen's, but then you have to also.
There's a second like locking function.
That's kind of nice.
Safety lock's really for the bigger accessories.
Yeah, so that gets rid of like the, how sometimes it used to shake, the bones not used to shake
Yep,
in there.
yep.
So if I like unlock that,
You still have
It's a
it.
lot of-
I
but
gotcha.
when you lock it, and you can see it actually lifted up, and it's like
Yeah.
there. So
But it's kind of nice to have both,
yeah, I
so
mean,
it won't rattle out.
I always felt like the rattle in the bones was a little bit, it always made me a little uneasy because I've also had like bones mount accessories fall out. So now that they're putting in the locking mechanisms, I feel safer about it.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely worked on shows that had really run down accessories, and you just stem it up, and then the bounce from stemming it up just falls on, and you have to safety everything.
Or you have to try to use it from a different vendor or a different manufacturer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not super compatible.
Yeah, and I think that actually probably works better. I know like everyone's using their new mounts, but the old Bowen's mount, I mean, some of the lights are still using it. They're having this. It makes it more interchangeable. So you
Yep.
can use a Nanlux Octa 5 on an Aperture 1200X, and it'll probably work and it'll hold in place. At least that's the wish. That's the hope.
Here's just one last comparison. So if you need to get that M90 heat, but you can live with a narrower beam angle, it's possible. But of course, that M90 can be spotted in as well and get even more heat. Or you have to go to like a 15 degree, 16 degree parallel beam adapter. Obviously, the beauty of the 5K is that it's bicolor and has green magenta shift and is IP rated. So a lot of upside.